Welcome to another K6 Pro Max video. In this one, we're gonna be changing the front brakes. I've already changed the rear, and I'm gonna do a little video on how to change these front brakes. A lot of videos online on how to change brakes, but just so you can see, I've changed the rear, right? And these brakes are used just what kind of like one finger brakes. You can see there's plenty of space there, but on this side, the front, which I have not done yet, you see it goes all the way down and touches. So mind you, this is after 677 miles of riding, and where I live is a lot of hills, so lots of brake usage. All right, so let's go ahead and get started on installing the front brakes on the K6 Pro Max. I was also going to install this full twist throttle. These little rubber things come off, but they would highlight or accent the turn signals. But they are a 3-prong female, which is the same as the bike. But I got an error 30 code. I'm gonna assume the pin setup is different. So I'm not gonna return them. I'm actually just gonna see if one day I can repin these and be able to use that full twist throttle. Unless I see another set that's online that has the yellow connector like that is on the bike. So we're just gonna go ahead and do the front brakes, like I said, and then I'm gonna clean it up. I'm gonna use soap and water and glass cleaner. Glass cleaner is a trick that I learned when I was in the Navy, and we had President Bush come to our ship, and the plane captains were using Windex to clean the outside of their helicopters, their H-60 Seahawks. And ever since then, in the 90s, I've been using glass cleaner to wipe down my cars after washing them, and it adds a little glisten without damaging the paint. So I'm sure someone's gonna say, oh, that damages the paint. Well, it's never damaged any paint on any vehicle that I've ever had, and I've been doing it since the 90s. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. I can show you the brake pads here. These are the old pads. No, they're not. Those are the new pads. I hope. Okay, so yeah, these are the old pads. You can see how worn they are. And since I'm at home, I am gonna wear these gloves so I don't accidentally touch the wall or something. And here are the new pads. See, the old ones are the same. E10, 11. Okay, and it comes with a little shim and some instructions. These are the instructions that are in English, and I'm gonna assume Chinese, Cantonese, and ease, I don't know. All right, for tools, just gonna need a 4.5 millimeter Allen key. There's one that comes with the bike. Generally speaking, the better your tool, the less likelihood of stripping something. You're gonna need something to pry off the cotter pin. The cotter pin is right here, And this is the other side. I gotta put my light on. But you're just gonna need something to pry that off. So I'm using this little small screwdriver, and you can use a needle nose plier. I lost my small needle nose pliers, which would basically be these two things put together. So yeah, that's all you're gonna need, and let's get into it. All right, let's get started. Move this stuff out of the way. We've got our shim, that, and you don't have to take the wheel off to do this, which is good. So basically just gonna take off these two with the 4.5 millimeter, and to put these back on, you're gonna use Loctite. Of course, I don't have any, so I have to remember to put some more in there because they are secured in with Loctite. So you just unscrew this, and there are torque settings in the instructions. I'll put those on the screen because I know someone's going to say, what are the torque specs? So you can see that it has some Loctite on it. If you've ever changed car brakes, this will be no different for you. I've given myself very little space with this camera, so I'm gonna have to move it back. Hopefully you can still see. There's a washer on this bolt right here, and then this one that's in between, and it faces this way, the open end towards the back. And then I should have wiped this off first. I know, expert in the comments, it's not wise to let the caliper hang. I know, and I say that facetiously, guys, because you know how it is. There's always somebody to give everybody else advice. So I'm just using regular brake parts cleaner, or just parts cleaner. And I'm just gonna wipe this down. So it could have gotten it a lot more, but you can see we got a lot off. Alright. So now, so I want to be careful not to twist this cable too much. It is secured by a zip tie right here. So when I say too much, I mean not at all. There's this cotter pin, and that's where you're going to want your needle nose pliers. Being careful to not damage the caliper itself. And I've got big clumsy fingers, so this won't be graceful. But again, I'll just try not to break anything. Be careful not to lose this unless you have a bunch this size or an assortment laying around. Otherwise you'll want to reuse this. So just straighten it out like that, and then you should just be able to push it right through. So I didn't even need the screwdriver, so just the needle nose pliers worked fine. Now, just gonna push out. Again, I'm trying not, let me move this, get a different angle. Trying not to twist this cable at all. But basically, I'm just gonna push down on the top of the pads, and everything comes out as one unit. Don't do that with the shim holding it together. And got nothing but shadows here. So you can see the worn pads, very worn. I used up a lot more of the pad than the rear did. I'm pretty sure you can reuse the shim, but why, when they give you a new one? Maybe just keep these as spares. So, as Chris Fix would say, out with the old, in with the new. Alright, so let me just wipe these down a little bit more. Now, when I did the rear, I did have to compress the pistons. I saw on the website, at least I saw on Amazon, that they had 4 piston brakes. You'll see in there, I don't know if you can see that, but there are only 2 pistons in there. I don't know if I'm going to have to compress the pistons or not, but it's pretty simple to do. You can actually do them with pliers like these. Someone will probably gripe about that, but let's assume we don't have to. Here's the new shim. We're just going to put the pad on one side, on the outside of both, like that, like a little sandwich, and then I'm just going to slide it up and in, and didn't need to compress the pistons or anything. And then I'm going to take the cotter pin, don't forget that, slide that back in, and then give it a twist. Twist. There's a town I know where the hipsters go called Bedrock. Twist. If you know that tune, if you know where that came from, you got to comment below with the timestamp. And you could go as far as to like the video as well. Alright, so a lot of motion on that. Need to get it bent a little bit more, even though it wouldn't go through unassisted. But I'm just so hesitant because I don't feel like going to Home Depot and buying cotter pins. And I keep hitting the camera, if you're wondering why the angle keeps changing. And I don't want to damage the caliper, which I'm starting to do. I keep hitting the camera and it's pissing me off. Alright, so hopefully that doesn't rattle around, but it's not going to lodge or dislodge. Now, we'll really know if we have to compress the calipers or not. Let's wipe down this part of the bracket. So you can see it doesn't take long at all. Just make sure we get these pieces in first, making sure not to twist. Again, the open end to the rear. It's kind of like a spacer. And I'm just putting the pads over the rotor, hoping that I have enough space. And it's not looking like it. You can see there, that's kind of tight, and it's not going over the rotor. If I can get you in here. So I'm gonna have to compress that piston a little bit, which sucks because now that means I gotta wrestle with this cotter pin again. It really wants me to go to Home Depot to get another cotter pin. That's ultimately what this process is trying to have happen. Yeah, that was less graceful than before. So just gonna pop these out like we did before. One big sandwich. I keep hitting this camera. But if I move it back, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see. So now what I'm gonna have to do is, without bending, you see the pistons there, here, and on this side. See if I can do this. So the key is to not bend those hydraulic cables. If you have mechanical ones, it's not as much of a concern, but I'm just gonna do like I do with my C-clamp on my car brakes and just compress those pistons in, and hopefully you can see that. These are a wear and tear item. I'm not worried about warranty issue with those. It's the same as you would do on a car with the C-clamp. So now we're just gonna push in our little brake sandwich, and don't forget the cotter pin. Now I get to fight with that again. I'm telling you, this wants me to end up with a trip to Home Depot to buy a whole thing of cotter pins. I mean, look at it, it's all chewed up. All right, I'm being careful to not split apart this caliper, so I'm holding it together. Because I'm definitely banging up the exterior. All right, now that's definitely, as they say, not going anywhere. It's hard not to say that, really. I know some people are tired of hearing it. All right, so now we should be able to get this over the rotor with no problem, as is the case. So let's go ahead and put our spacer on. Should have cleaned all these things. And again, I'll put the torque specs on the screen for you spec nerds. I'm making this a lot harder than it really is. Once you do get it lined up, it's pretty easy to get in. Make sure you give yourself enough space for the bottom spacer. Maybe 15-20 minutes to do both of them if you're not trying to record. Torque specs hopefully on screen. But again, use Loctite on these. If it wasn't 1,000 degrees outside, I'd ride up to Home Depot and get some Loctite. But I think I'm just gonna ride out and test these brakes real quick, and then I was thinking about riding to get some food, but out again, it's just too hot. And I want to get this done today because the next few days are when it's really going to be 1,000 degrees. So that's it for the brake pad change. I guess I should specify brake pads when I say brakes, because we're not changing the rotors here. Let me pick it up and see if it needs any adjusting. So in order to test the front wheel, I would have to hold it up, and I can't hold it up and use the brakes and the motor at the same time, so I haven't really been able to see if it's spinning freely. But just looking at the brakes, looks like definitely not touching now. So, you know, back to one finger operation. Maybe we'll have to see if it needs to be bled, but that's a different video on a different day. I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing cleaned up and then take it on a little spin. All right, so it's just simply too hot outside to be doing any tests. So although you did not see me put the rear brake on, I can assure you I changed the rear brake, and I'm just going to show you that it works by, what am I going to do? Make sure it's off the ground. It's in PAS 5. See, it goes up to 30, and hit the brakes and it stopped. All right, I'll do that again. Okay, so so the brakes work. Everything works. Didn't get to change the throttle, but this throttle still works fine, as you can see. Snaps all the way back. So yes, I would like to get a full twist throttle eventually, but it's not a priority. Everything is fully functional. You can see I wiped it down a little bit. Got it cleaned except for the contact points on the wheels. But yes, can't wait for the weather to break a few days from now so I can get back out on it. And for you A12 fans, I have not forgotten about you. You guys have been the ones to help grow the channel, really. So I'll get this thing back out there eventually as well. All right, well, thank you for watching the brake change video or brake pad change video on my K6 Pro Max. That's gonna be it for this one. Thanks again for watching. If you wanna be a good sport, you can like the video.